I'm going to call the public hearing to order.
Good evening and welcome. I'd now like to open the public hearing on real property tax law 466A, also known as the volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker tax exemption. As you may recall from one of our previous public meetings, we had talked about real property tax law 466A and the financial implications of it for the community, and the board was in favor of moving forward with the process. So as required by law, tonight is the public hearing, and then following a successful public hearing, the next step would be to move forward with adopting a resolution at a subsequent board meeting. So I don't need to go into great detail because we've already done this, but as you may recall, this law was passed in December by Governor Hochul and allows for a 10% property tax exemption for on assessed value for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers within our community. In order to be eligible for the exemption, the volunteer workers must be enrolled and approved by the town assessor. They must reside in the town or the taxing jurisdiction where the exemption is being offered. The property must be their primary residence. It must be used for residential purposes, and there is a certification process that would need to be put in place to verify that the eligible members meet the criteria before the exemption is put into place. There are some considerations for the board to consider. The first one would be that we have a choice, and this would be more reflective of what the resolution might look like. You have a choice to allow the exemption of between 2 and 5 years of service at minimum for a volunteer firefighter or ambulance worker to be eligible. You would have to, for all intent and purpose, direct me to determine a procedure for which certifies members' years of service. I'm told that's already in place through the town assessor's office with other taxing jurisdictions within our town, so that should be something relatively easy to do. And just as a reminder, you have the authority to also provide a lifetime exemption for eligible members with 20 or more years of service. So just to dive a little bit deeper, there is also other considerations as far as the exemption goes for unremarried spouses. So you can allow the exemption to continue for unremarried spouses whose spouse is killed in the line of duty, and that could either reinstate a pre-existing exemption or they can continue the exemption. And there is some criteria there that would need to be met. They would be certified similar to an initial application. The deceased member would have to have been enrolled at least 5 years, and they had to be receiving the exemption prior to. So taking a moment here to pause, the things we need to think about relative to drafting a resolution. At what point do you want them to be eligible? After 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years of service? Do you want to allow a lifetime exemption for people that have 20 or more years service, assuming that after they hit 20 years of service, they're no longer in service, but the exemption could continue? And then there is one of 2 unremarried spouse considerations. One is for a member killed in the line of duty. The unremarried spouse could continue to get the exemption on the property. And the second one is an unremarried spouse that of a deceased member that had at least 20 or more years of service. So in my research about this, I kept it mostly restricted to what the taxing jurisdictions in the town of Amherst are doing. For all intent and purpose, what I found is that the school districts and the town and the village and the county are all offering the broadest of considerations relative to the resolutions that were passed. In other words, they're giving the maximum benefit to the most amount of people. So they're starting it at 2 years. They are allowing the lifetime exemption for 20 years of service, and they are allowing, in my review of the resolutions, both unremarried spouse accommodations. So that would be my recommendation for us if we were to move forward, when we move forward with a resolution. At this point, just to remind you of next steps and timeline, we would have a public hearing tonight, which we've done. Be sometime before March 1st, we would want to have the resolution adopted. And then at that point, I would have to prepare a procedure for certification in accordance with 466A of the real property tax law, and then submit the adopted resolution to the town of Amherst. And then individuals at that point could fill out a form and an application to receive the exemption. And as long as they have it done and approved by March 1st, it would be on the books for the 2024 tax year. So my question would be, as we look to draw up a resolution for a subsequent meeting, is everybody in favor of allowing the greatest number of exemptions or the greatest eligibility? Or would you want to talk about those considerations and have some variance or difference?
I'll poll the board. Mrs. Metzen, are you good with Mr. Pinnell's recommendations for the exemption? I know you have to recuse yourself. Are you
absolutely.
good with his recommendations, Mrs. Ernst?
Yes.
And as I, so.
Thank you. So we can have the resolution drawn up and we'll see it for approval at a subsequent meeting and we'll move forward with the timeline and next steps. Thank you. This is the end of the public hearing unless there are any questions from the public. All right. As a man of the public, thank you for being here.
I'm going to call the regular meeting to order then. We can stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have no visitors wishing to speak. We do have a couple pieces of written communication. One is from Mr. Bettino with the Eggertsville Hose, sent an email just expressing his gratitude that we were looking into this volunteer firefighters tax credit. Another one was from Jane Sullivan from ECASB, just telling us she enjoyed attending our meeting and telling us about different events that there is, so I can send that around. Do we have any reports of boards and committees?
There was an ECASB delegate assembly meeting last week. We went over the calendar and, not too much to bring back, but I am the delegate to the ECASB. If there's anything that we want to share going in that direction, I'm happy to pass it on.
Okay. Anyone else? Then we'll get right into the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you.
Better wow us.
Okay, so it's a pleasure to be back behind the podium this evening to offer you some highlights, I guess, for lack of a better term, of our opening days with students and staff. So I'm going to start right off with the wow factor. One of the things we worked on, and when I say we, I mean Lori Sasenko and Paul Hare, but one of the things we worked on over the last year was a video that might offer outsiders a little insight into what our district is all about. And the intention of this video is to have it on our website. So when you go to the website and you go to About Us, when you go to that page, this video would be front and center so people could watch 5 minutes and get a little bit of a snippet of what we're all about here. If they are relocating from another state or they're, looking to relocate and change school districts, and they want to know a little bit more about us. So it is something that we worked on. We worked on all last year, and then we debuted for staff on opening day. So I've actually asked Lori to hold off on putting it on our website because I wanted to share it with you at a board meeting. So we have about 5 minutes of viewing pleasure, and then you'll be back stuck with me for a little bit more.
Hey, could you turn?
The other one up too?
Yeah.
Everything okay behind me?
Tradition, pride, achievement. This is Amherst. We are Amherst. At Amherst Central School District, we dedicate ourselves to an educational mission that prepares every child to excel to the best of their abilities in a dynamic world. With programming that combines rigorous academics and opportunities for the development of creative expression, athletic pride, and leadership qualities, our students are building a foundation they need to succeed in a world that is ever evolving. From our youngest learners in full-day pre-kindergarten to our graduating seniors, we foster and support academic, emotional, and personal growth for each student. Central to our success is the collaborative team of high-performing professionals at Amherst whose student-focused approach is a part of a district-wide network of faculty, support staff, administrators, parents, and alumni. We care about one another at Amherst. We value character and integrity, and we model those traits to students. We create an atmosphere of trust within our classrooms to support learning. We value the diversity within our community. The broad array of cultures and traditions celebrated by our families becomes part of the fabric of our district. We learn from one another and we celebrate together. Quality instruction designed to stimulate natural curiosity and promote independent thinking, our students may encounter a variety of learning situations that engage them in their work. As technology and interactive learning platforms evolve, our district has kept pace and provides equipment and access to e-learning technology tools that promote critical thinking and problem solving. Student has access to music and art instruction. These classes inspire creativity, innovation, and confidence. Our musicians and artists are gaining important life skills of teamwork and discipline. Outside of the classroom, we encourage students to fulfill their personal interests and broaden their school experience. School clubs, plays, musicals, and athletics allow students to discover and nurture their talents. There's a place for every student who wants to participate. Our interscholastic athletics program lets middle and high school students begin to establish long-term fitness habits while learning the values of fair play and honesty, discipline and determination, and how to lose as well as how to win. Amherst is a district that conveys a strong sense of community, a connectedness that comes from being large enough to offer a broad range of programs, yet small enough to care about the individual. Being an Amherst Tiger means being part of a family of students, teachers, coaches, mentors, parents, administrators, retirees, and alumni. We want our graduates to be lifelong learners and to know that wherever life takes them, they'll remain part of our Amherst Central School District community. Tradition, pride, achievement. This is Amherst, and we are Amherst.
Wow. So that's, I think I said this on opening day too. I mean, that just articulates better than I ever could, I think, how most of us feel about the school district. So they did a fantastic job, and kudos to, you know, Paul Hare, who shot all the footage and did all the editing. Lori, you know, with her amazing writing skills, put that script together. And we actually had a friend of Paul Hare's who did the narration, and I'm sorry, her name eludes me at the moment.
Laura Daniels.
Laura Daniels, who is in the Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame. So she was available through a connection Paul Hare has to do that for us. So yeah, it came out great. So now, after tonight, it'll be on our website, available for anyone who's interested in knowing a little bit about Amherst schools. So also on opening days with staff, this is going to start again. Okay. We also talked about the strategic plan update, and we highlighted for all staff our priorities for this year. So as you know, our big rocks are teaching and learning, student life, and Amherst pride. You know, this year in teaching and learning, we're focusing on student growth, integration of technology, application of technology, and curriculum development in the broadest sense. For student life, we're focusing on extracurricular opportunities, student-teacher relationships, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And last but not least, under Amherst Pride, we're focusing on the school being the hub of the community. So after adoption of the updated strategic plan, we have put timeframes on all of the action items, and our building-based action teams met in the summer to look at the action items and develop action plans for the school year. And then we reviewed on opening days the priorities to ensure that everyone's on the same page and we're all rowing in the same direction. We also informed everybody of the Capital One project update, specifically Phase 1, which we expect to be playing out in spring and summer this year at Smallwood and Windermere. So some of the things that are included in the capital project are safety and security enhancements, the auditorium upgrades, specifically at Smallwood and Windermere, including heating and ventilation systems, lighting, stage rigging, performance equipment, and technology. That's specific to Smallwood. We're looking at site work, so this will be a big renovation of the tennis courts and parent pickup and parking lot and drop-off areas, and plans are being worked on and submitted to State Ed for approval. So we're looking to go out and bid Phase 1 of the project in December, by the end of December, so we can get going in the spring and summer. Smallwood also has main entry corridor upgrades, as well as partitions in classrooms that need to be replaced for the few classrooms that have the partitions, and then upgrades to heating and ventilation systems and water fountains and other plumbing fixtures. At Windermere, very similar, heating and ventilation system upgrades, plumbing fixtures in bathrooms and classrooms, and then renovating, in addition to the AUD, which was both buildings, but then also a list of renovations there. So out of the $68 million project. We're expecting phase one to be about 10 million. So phase two is going to be much larger, but as you can imagine, phase two takes a lot more time for design and approval for state ed. So that is currently ongoing as well. So we've submitted plans for phase one to state ed. We're hoping to get approval, and we're finalizing some of the design details, and we're hoping to bid that by the end of December. And then we're also planning some of the big pieces in phase two, so we can get that submitted and approved and keep things moving with our project. One of our traditions for our opening days is to honor our years of service, our service awards. So we had 3 35-year service awards with Eddie Constantino, who works at the field house as one of our grounds workers, a maintenance mechanic, Jennifer Choman from Amherst Middle School, 6th grade teacher, and Pat Crowley from the high school. I think he said he started when he was like 15 years old when we did the building tours to, not date himself with 35 years of service. At the middle school, we had 1 30-year service award recipient in Anna Keefe, an AIS teacher. And then what appears to be as a sign of the times here, the bulk of our service awards went to our 25-year service folks. Chris Dolce and Brian Gekas at Smallwood, in addition to Sophia, John, Edie, and Tobian at Windermere, Pat Ransberry at the middle school, and then Mary Bakowitz, Tom Szynski, Lori Legoff, Kathy Siegel, and Amy Weir at the high school. Tom works in our facilities crew. Kathy Siegel works for our lunch cafeteria in the lunchroom, and Pat Ransberry at the middle school is one of our custodians as well. So we honor all of our employees for their service, and it was very nice to have Paul there to help hand out the awards and honor them. Moving right along, one of the other components of our opening days is mandated training. This year, our opening day was condensed from like 3 hours to 1 hour because we changed our mandated training to an online format. So the mandated training included all of the categories you can see there: bloodborne pathogens, harassment, hazardous materials, school violence, all of the state required mandated training. And then there was also an opportunity for people to acknowledge access to policies within the system, so we had that documented. And then Mike highlighted a couple things in person in the auditorium, mostly the offering support for the online format and where that would be available, and reiterating acceptable use of our computer system, as well as doubling down on the harassment policy, because that seems to be a focus from the state at this moment, and comptroller audits that we've seen. In person at building faculty meetings, our PPS staff also conducted our annual SAVE Act training, and one of the components for the SAVE Act is a mental health component. So we trained everybody in the signs and warning signs of the 13 mental health disorders, as well as whom to turn to with questions about students' behavior, or whom to turn to if you need to access crisis support and interventions. So that was done in a smaller setting in buildings at faculty meetings as a component of the SAVE Act. We welcomed our students on the Tuesday after Labor Day. It was nice to see everybody come into the building on those hot summer days as we first came back to school. I'll just highlight a couple things. At Windermere, we had a new bench installed, as you can see here in the picture, that was donated by the Amherst Rotary South as part of an initiative that Julie had. And then Mr. Crozier shared with me something he did new on the first day at Smallwood that was based on a book that they were studying. I forgot the name of the book. What Do You Do with an Idea? I think the name of the book is What Do You Do with an Idea? And he met with a group of fourth graders who were about to be fifth graders over the summer, and they provided him with some feedback about opening days. And one of the pieces of feedback they provided him was that, there's a lot of lead up and anticipation to opening days from the kids throughout the summer. And then they get to school and it's kind of anticlimactic because it's, kind of ho-hum. So the kids had suggested to Mr. Crozier that maybe there could be like a celebration on opening day to kick off the new year that might make it a little bit more exciting. So Rich took that piece of feedback and ran with it, and we were able to get some video footage of it that I thought I would share with you tonight.
Okay, friends, we're welcome. Listen, big undertaking here, but we needed to get together because this first day of school needs to be a celebration. Welcome back to see all of you on this beautiful day, all of your smiling faces. The first day of school. Look around again. The Smallwood community is like your family. Please put your hands together for fifth grader Lola.
To show that all of our ideas are going to rock this year. So look around, my friends. This celebration right here is all thanks to us and our ideas. And you know what? We're the living proof that when we put our heads together and dream big, amazing things can happen. I'm so excited to see all the other ideas we come up with this year. Whether it's projects, events, or just making our school an even better place. We've got the power to make it all happen. So let's go out there, make this a great school year, and show that all the Smallwood that we're going to rock our community, our plan, together. Have an awesome day, everyone. Let's make this school year the best one ever.
There you go. Okay, friends, I'm going to get back here behind you. You're the center of attention there, Richard. Okay, Smallwood, loud and proud. I need a countdown to open this school year in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So I think Lola was one of the 4 or 5 students that met with Mr. Crozier over the summer, where this idea came from, so it was nice that he included her in the celebration as well. So a very successful opening to the school year, and that is a few highlights. Thank you for allowing them to share them with you. That's all I had.
All right, we will need a motion for new business items.
I'll make a motion for new business items, F1, A through H, 2, B through E. And that's it.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving new business items F1, A through H, and 2B through E, please say aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries 7-0. With that, I'd like to welcome a new team member. Lindsay, can you say your last name for me so I don't butcher it?
That's okay, yeah, Sahana.
Sahana, okay, I would have butchered that.
That's all right.
Welcome to the team. This is where you give your 5-minute speech to us. And,
Boy, so much pressure. Thank you so much. I'm so
can
excited.
you just tell us where you're going to be working and stuff so we know?
Yeah, I'm going to be a speech language pathologist at Smallwood with some of the younger kids. So I'm very excited.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Welcome to the team. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Me too.
Ms. Custodi, do we have any follow-up action items? All right. Well, we will need a motion to convene to executive session then.
I'll make a motion to convene to executive session pending litigation and negotiations with Amherst Paraprofessional Association, Amherst Lunch Employees Association, Amherst Cook Manager.
That's a mouthful. We have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming.